A 17-year-old peasant girl led an army and terrified a kingdom. Joan of Arc wasn't a trained soldier. She had no military education, no royal blood, no political power. She was an illiterate farm girl from a village no one had heard of. Yet in 1429, she commanded thousands of battle-hardened men, broke a months-long siege, and crowned a king, all before her 18th birthday. Then they burned her alive. Historical records confirm every detail of her story, but what the church tried to erase for 500 years will shake everything you thought you knew. And halfway through this story, the buried evidence changes everything. Court transcripts from her 1431 trial, preserved in the French National Archives, confirm Joan of Arc was born in 1412 in Domremy, a small village in northeastern France. Historical records verify she was the daughter of Jacques d'Arc, a tenant farmer of modest means. At age 13, Joan testified under oath that she began hearing voices. According to her sworn testimony, she identified these voices as Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. They gave her a mission: save France from English occupation and ensure Charles VII's coronation. What historians confirm is this: France was losing the 100 Years' War. English forces controlled most of northern France, including Paris. The French Dauphin, Charles VII, was uncrowned, hiding in Chinon, and his legitimacy was questioned. France was collapsing. But here's what isn't usually taught. Joan's voices gave her specific military intelligence. She described English troop positions, supply routes, and defensive weaknesses she could not possibly have known. Modern historians remain divided on how an illiterate peasant possessed this tactical knowledge. In May 1428, 16-year-old Joan convinced her uncle to take her to a nearby garrison commander, Robert de Baudricourt. Court documents confirm Baudricourt dismissed her twice. She had no credentials, no proof, no reason to be believed. Then Joan made a prediction. She told Baudricourt that French forces would suffer a devastating defeat at the Battle of Rouvray. Weeks later, on February 12, 1429, it happened exactly as she described. This is documented in multiple contemporary chronicles. Suddenly, Baudricourt provided her with an armed escort. Historical records confirm that in February 1429, Joan traveled for 11 days through enemy territory, nearly 300 miles across war-torn France, to reach Charles VII at Chinon. When she arrived, she was tested. Charles disguised himself among his courtiers to see if she could identify him. According to multiple eyewitness accounts verified by historians, Joan walked directly to him without hesitation and revealed information known only to Charles, including details of private prayers he had made months earlier. The king's theologians examined her for 3 weeks in Poitiers. They found her orthodox in faith and approved her mission. This is confirmed by church records. Charles VII provided Joan with armor, a banner, and command authority. Military records confirm that in April 1429, she joined the relief force heading to Orleans, a city under English siege for 7 months. Here's what military historians agree on. Joan didn't fight with a sword. She carried a banner, but her presence transformed the army. Demoralized French soldiers who had been losing for decades suddenly believed they could win. On May 7, 1429, Joan led the assault on the fortress of Les Tourelles. Contemporary accounts verify she was struck by an arrow between her neck and shoulder. She pulled it out herself, had the wound bandaged, and returned to battle the same day. The fortress fell. The siege was broken. 9 months of English control ended in 9 days. Military historians call it one of the most dramatic reversals in medieval warfare. If you want history that separates verified records from myth, subscribe and share your thoughts. Was Joan divinely inspired? Or is there another explanation? Because what comes next is even more disturbing. Between May and July 1429, Joan's forces won battle after battle. Historical records confirm her presence at Jargeau, Mung-sur-Loire, Beaugency, and Patay, victories that opened the road to Reims. On July 17, 1429, Charles VII was crowned king at Reims Cathedral, with Joan standing beside him. She was 17 years old. Contemporary accounts describe her weeping with joy, believing her mission was complete. But Joan wanted to continue fighting. Against the king's wishes, she led campaigns toward Paris. On May 23, 1430, during a skirmish at Compiègne, Burgundian forces captured her. Court records confirm the Burgundians sold her to their English allies for 10,000 francs. Here is what was buried. Charles VII, the king she crowned, made no attempt to ransom or rescue her. He abandoned her completely. No historical record shows he intervened on her behalf. The English couldn't execute her as a prisoner of war. That would make her a martyr. Instead, they handed her to the church for trial. Records preserved at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France document everything. Pierre Cauchon, Bishop of Beauvais and an English ally, presided. The trial transcripts, verified as authentic by historians, show Joan was questioned relentlessly about her voices, her clothing, and her assumption of military authority. They charged her with heresy, witchcraft, and dressing in men's clothing. On May 30, 1431, at age 19, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in the marketplace of Rouen. Multiple eyewitness accounts confirm she asked for a cross and died calling on Jesus. But here's the truth they tried to erase. In 1456, the church retried her case. They examined the same evidence and the same testimonies. Pope Calixtus III declared the original trial invalid and Joan innocent of all charges. They admitted they had executed an innocent girl. Historians later discovered something even more unsettling. Joan's military strategies closely matched classical Roman tactics from texts she could not have read. Her knowledge of theology impressed trained scholars despite her illiteracy. Her predictions came true with disturbing accuracy. Modern researchers remain divided. Some medical historians suggest temporal lobe epilepsy could explain her voices and visions, though this remains unproven. Military historians confirm her tactical decisions were objectively brilliant, regardless of their source. But here's what no one can fully explain. A 17-year-old illiterate farm girl convinced hardened soldiers to follow her into battle, broke a siege experienced commanders could not, and crowned a king. Then the same institutions that used her declared her evil and killed her. In 1920, nearly 5 centuries after burning her alive, the Catholic Church declared Joan of Arc a saint. The girl they executed for heresy became one of their most celebrated figures. The veil has been lifted, but only for those willing to see the truth. Joan of Arc's story isn't just inspiration. It's a warning. Historical records prove she did everything they said she couldn't. She led when she wasn't allowed to lead. She won when everyone said she would lose. And for that, they destroyed her. Drop a comment. Divine intervention, medical condition, or something else entirely. If you want more stories they tried to erase from history, subscribe and follow. The truth is waiting behind the veil.